So if we are to look at our channel strip here in Logic, we can see audio effects. This is the insert points. So to load our EQ, we have two methods of doing this. So the first one is to click into our list of plugins, scroll down to EQ, and then to select the EQ. And now you can either just press on the EQ name here, or you can choose whether to put it stereo or dual mono. So, and there it is. It's loaded up. We can see it's in the first insert point, and it is now also being displayed in the thumbnail at the top of the channel. If I go to no plugin and just remove that, so you can now see that because I have recently used the EQ, it has now come to this little section at the top of the list of plugins so that I can use it again. If you were to click once on the EQ thumbnail, this will load the EQ into the first available insert point. So if you have other plugins on the channel and then you click the EQ once, it will put it into the next available position. So now if we transfer what we learned about our parameters of EQ, the parameters for each band of EQ is along the bottom here. So we have a rough guide. If you hover over one of these color bands, it will highlight the area and also the on and off bypass button at the top, which is in the same color. So we have 4 parametric bands. We have a low shelf, a high shelf, a low cut, and a high cut. So if we start with our parametric bands, I'm just going to bypass these, and we're just going to leave one parametric band on. So we can move the frequency. We can then boost or cut the selected frequency range. And then we can adjust the bandwidth, so how wide the area of affected frequencies is, or how narrow. If you were to press Alt and click on any of the parameters that you've changed, it will put them back to their default position. So we have 4 parametric bands, all the same, and my tip would be to keep them in the order that they are presented, so that you can be a little bit more organized about the area of sound that you're affecting. So try and have this one in this area, then the second, then the second, then the third, and then the fourth. Just makes it a lot easier when you're hovering across if they line up more or less with where their parameter controls are. So I just bypass these for a second. So if we come right to the bottom, we've got our low cut or our high pass filter. So it removes the low frequencies, allows the high frequencies to pass through. So you can see the coloured area of this now is what is being removed. Exactly the same for our high cut or our low pass filter. Now our parameters change slightly here. So instead of it being a boost or a cut parameter, it is actually how steep the slope is. The bandwidth will dictate whether it gives a little nudge up, a resonant kind of bump just before the frequencies are removed. So just bypass this. We have our low shelf and high shelf, which are quite crude types of EQ. gives us a nice accurate position for where we want to boost or cut, but everything below remains the same. And the opposite for our high cut, everything above the selected frequencies. So if we were to put all of our bands on now, you can see that there's quite a lot that you can do with this EQ. If you want to restore all of this, just go to recall default and it will very quickly reset it to its default position. So I have a little drum loop here. I'll just play it for you so you can hear it. Now you can see that the waveform is then presented for you within the EQ. Now, in the bottom left-hand corner, we have this Analyzer Post button. Now, if we were to press it, we can have it in pre or post. Now, generally speaking, pre or post, pre is before something happens, post is after something happens. Do you want the visualization of the waveform to be how the sound is before you've applied the EQ, or what it looks like after the EQ has changed the sound? So at the moment it's on post. So if I was to remove all of the low frequencies and then to play it, you'll see that the waveform will be changed to represent what is left in the sound or what has been removed. If we put it onto pre, then the shape of the visual of the waveform will remain the same regardless of what EQ change you make. Now, especially when you're starting out with EQ, I'd recommend that you have it on post so that you can see how the frequencies are being affected, but also try to listen to the sound, look at where it sits within the frequency range, and then maybe turn the analyzer off and try to affect the sound without using your eyes. You can always turn it back on to check, but this is a good test, and it's also a very good way of making sure that you understand what frequencies you're listening to and how to manipulate them.